Hi, this is John from John's Record Collection. This is box number 7, Arthur Conley to Blossom Dearie. So let me begin on my record collection here. So this is Arthur Conley's More Sweet Soul. So this was the follow-up to this was the follow-up album after he had his big hit, Sweet Soul Music. And it has a really good cover of the Beatles' on it. And this one is the Conti family. I like bands that are family bands, where it's the mom and the dad playing with the kids, even if it's cheesy, or especially if it's cheesy. And this one has a really interesting cover version of Hey Jude on it. Yeah, it just has to be heard to be believed. I think there may even be a drum break on this record that some collectors are looking for, but I kind of like it just for the Hey Jude cover. And this is Continental Circus. It's a European soundtrack. I somehow found this in New Jersey, of all places, but it's a European soundtrack. And it is French, and it has the progressive rock band Gong on it, which is why it is notable. And this is the Contraceptive Puts You On. It's just a really weird 1960s hippie comedy album. Yeah, there's a lot of nudity on that cover. Maybe I shouldn't have that out for too long. Cool Yule. This is a very nice Christmas compilation. A Christmas compilation of rock and roll music from the 50s and early 50s and 1960s. It has Clarence Carter's Backdoor Santa on it, which was the sample used by Run DMC for Christmas in Hollis. And it has a lot of other really rockin' Christmas tunes on it. So if you want to liven up the Christmas music you have in your house, Cool Yule on Rhino Records. And let's see what I got here. The Alan Copeland Conspiracy, Bubble Called You. So this is Alan Copeland was an arranger. One of the most notable things he did was he did a mashup of the Mission Impossible theme and the Beatles' Norwegian Wood, which just simply has to be heard to be believed. But he never released that on LP. This is one of his LPs. And here are 2 LPs from a very interesting woman, Ruth Copeland. So Ruth Copeland, actually it's the spine is this way, but I guess the picture goes this way. And this one, she's actually pretty hot. So Ruth Copeland was a white woman who was actually affiliated with George Clinton of Parliament Funkadelic, and she's actually a pretty surprisingly funky singer, and so she was hanging out with those Parliament Funkadelic guys in the early 1970s, and there's some good drum breaks, I think, on one of these records. Let's see, Sylvia Copeland, The August Child. This isn't as well known, but if you're into that Ema Sumac vein, Lita Anist, Miriam Burton, all those unusual 1950s jazz singers with the really big vocal range and sort of singing these otherworldly sounds, Sylvia Copeland is also a very powerful vocalist. The Copper-Plated Integrated Circuit. So this is, it has the subtitle Plugged In Pop. Moog synthesizer record, and a good one. And, this one, I haven't listened to it too much, but Corridos y Tragedias del Siglo XX, or Corridos and Tragic Songs of the 20th Century. This is pretty much Mexican folk music, but the reason I picked it up is there are very contemporary songs about it. There's songs about Sputnik. There's songs about Fidel Castro. There's songs about John F. Kennedy and his assassination. There's a song about Vietnam. So I thought it was, I don't know if anybody, I guess not a lot of people know about it, but I don't know if it's really expensive because, like I said, nobody knows about it. And Celebrations in Solitude, the poetry of Jane Cortez. So I like a lot of jazz poetry. This is a sort of a later jazz poetry record, early 70s. Jane Cortez is very much a pioneer of that kind of slam poetry slam aesthetic. So she was a bit ahead of her time. So if you like kind of a jazzy, funky background to poetry, this is good. And let's see. Yeah, my house is still getting renovated, so there's some noise. And Bill Cosby talks to kids about drugs. Yeah, I know Bill Cosby's canceled, but this record is absolutely insane. And when I say insane, I mean that in a perfectly good way. So this is there is a song on this record called "The Dope Pusher," and Bill Cosby sings it in his Bill Cosby voice. And the thing that's amazing about it is, like, these guys, he probably recruited a bunch of guys from Funkadelic or something like that, and it's like these guys it's an anti-drug record, but I mean the guys playing wah-wah guitar behind him had to have been high out of their minds. There's also some very weird spoken word bits where he's trying to tell people not to do drugs, and weird I guess there's one about speed, and they speed things up. They do that. So it's a weird record. And let's see, what do we have? Don Costa. I think he was an arranger for Sinatra. He has some good pop records. His daughter was Nika Costa. She had a hit in the 1990s or 2000s called "Like a Feather." This is why I have it. Don Costa plays the Beatles, so this is kind of an orchestrated record of Beatles covers. And I think I got this out of the back of a truck at a flea market in Oakland, I think, if I remember correctly. And oh my goodness, now this is Gal Costa, no relation to Don Costa, but Gal Costa is a very innovative singer from Brazil, and she was associated with the Tropicalia movement, which links together a lot of electric rock and roll and psychedelia, and a lot of indigenous Brazilian music, and the combination is absolutely amazing. This is Gal Costa's Gal, and is one of her most sought after albums, but a lot of her albums are great. And let's see, Colson, Dean, McGinnis, and Flint, Words and Music by Bob Dylan. So I got this. The gospel Bob Dylan record I bought. The guy I bought it from was really persistent, and he had me buy a bunch of other records with Bob Dylan covers on them. But yeah, this one's actually pretty good. And Yes. Psychotic Reaction, the Count 5. If you don't already know about it, Psychotic Reaction was actually a top 5 hit. It is probably the best American knockoff of Yardbirds sound in their, like fuzz blasting psychedelic period. They also have a couple songs that are like The Who, but unfortunately Count 5 only did like one album. There were a bunch of high school kids who basically got a top 5 hit in 1966, and then I guess they had to go back to school or go back to college, and so the band never really lasted for much longer. So they're kind of like the band in That Thing You Do, but cooler, because they really blast the fuzz tone on their guitars and they sound like the Yardbirds. Country Gazette, and let's see, this is, I have this because it has a bluegrass cover of Eleanor Rigby. So I've been finding a lot more bluegrass covers of Beatles songs lately, and this is one of the albums that has one of those. And Corlander's Almanac. I think it still has the sticker that I bought it for $5 at Amoeba. It is a very interesting anthology. So it's from the Folkways record label, and it's a series of field recordings by this guy Harold Corlander, and it just has very unusual stuff he collected all over the world. So, for example, he did a field recording in Burma, which is now Myanmar, and he did a field recording of people from Burma singing "Hi Ho, Hi Ho" from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So it's a very unusual collection of stuff, and I love the Folkways record label, so I obviously had to get this since it was so cheap at the time. And this is a very notorious record, Coven. This is Coven. Coven was a one-hit wonder, mostly known for the song "One Tin Soldier," which became a hit after it appeared on the soundtrack of The Legend of Billy Jack. It was anyway. If you haven't heard any of those things, look up Coven, Todd in the Shadows, one-hit wonder series on Coven, because that's a very good YouTube video. But anyway, this is their first album, and it is Witchcraft. They're called Coven. Witchcraft destroys minds and reaps souls. And so this is basically they went the full-on Satanist trip, and so like on the back here they've got an upside-down cross and 2 skulls. I won't show what's in the gatefold, but there's like a naked woman as an altar on this. So the first side of the record is it's not heavy metal, but it is kind of like hard rock in a Jefferson Airplane mold. And then the second side is Satanic Mass. It's absolutely crazy. There's like this line, "Kiss the Goat," which I think should be sampled. I don't know. Yeah, I think it's more funny than scary myself. But anyway, but Satanism is bad. Don't do drugs, stay in school. And let's see. The Coen Brothers, Live at the Iron Horse. This is a private press record. I have it because it has kind of a country and western or country rock version of Norwegian Wood on it. And the Cowboy Junkies. So I got this for $5, but so the Cowboy Junkies are mainly known for their, I guess their third album, the Trinity Session. It was their second or third album, but this was their first, when barely, hardly anybody knew who they were. So this is a very early Cowboy Junkies album, and the piano music is Henry Cowell. So Henry Cowell, like John Cage, used to do prepared piano, which he would do by inserting objects inside a grand piano. So you put in like blocks of wood, or you put a screw or a thumbtack or something, and these objects would prevent the keys from playing the way they're supposed to, but you end up creating these completely new sounds with the piano, and you can sort of compose based on that. The Cowsills, 2x2. The Cowsills were a group that were the inspiration for the Partridge Family. And in fact, unfortunately, one of the Cowsills, I believe it was Bill Cowsill, he ended up drowning during Hurricane Katrina because he lived in New Orleans. But the Cowsills, this is a sort of Christian concept record by the Cowsills, and there's one song on here, 666 is the number of a man, that I absolutely think Black Francis from the Pixies must have swiped for Monkey Gone to Heaven. And what else do we have here? Oh, Lol Coxill, he's kind of a UK avant-garde guy. He recorded a really bizarre cover version of I Am the Walrus on this record, which he did with his two daughters. So you've got these little kids going, goo goo, ka-choo. It's weird. I like weird. And Coil and Sharp, the Absurd Imposters. Now, these guys are nuts. So these guys, they did sort of a hipster absurdist comedy act in the late 1950s and early 60s, and they did it by doing these man-on-the-street interviews, but they would start from these very ridiculous premises and really just get people to go on and on with things that got ever and ever more ridiculous. And so these guys were ahead of their time, comedically speaking. I mean, there are probably some things that current day comedians could still steal from these guys, and it still would sound fresh. So here's my other Coil and Sharp record, The Insane But Hilarious Minds of Coil and Sharp. And let's see. Gotta wait for the renovation sounds to die down. Soap Opera Suite, Snake Oil Symphony. So this is a lot of found sounds. It's kind of an avant-garde classical music, concrete, found sound record. But the guy invokes Devo in the liner notes, so it's pretty off the wall. This is one of those psych-exploitation records, Bedlam by the Crazy People. And very nice singles collection by so it's a reissue, it's a singles collection by The Creation. I happen to love The Creation. Too bad they didn't make many albums. They were mainly a singles band. Their best known song is probably Making Time, which is an amazing song. It plays during one of that opening montage sequence of Max Fisher's extracurricular activities in the movie Rushmore. If you ever get a chance to hear the whole song, Please Do, because Wes Anderson did not put the full song in it, and actually the full song is even better than the bit that he played in the movie. And let's see. Oh, here's a good one. Cro-Magnon. So Cro-Magnon, this is on ESP Disc Records, which it's a very good label to collect. So if you can find anything original on ESP Disc Records, you definitely should go get it. It had ESP Disc was mainly avant-garde jazz, but the rock bands that were signed onto ESP Disc had to be just as weird as those avant-garde jazz guys. And one of those weirdos was Cro-Magnon. And Cro-Magnon was this garage band. I forget where they were from, but their concept was that they were cavemen. And they were cavemen playing music after society had collapsed and people had to go back to caves in order to survive. And this is the kind of music that people would have played if that had been our future, which it may still be. So Cro-Magnon, there's some songs that are just almost Caledonia. If you can see Caledonia and look up Caledonia by Cro-Magnon on YouTube and play it. It is a song. It's almost industrial music sounding, but it came out in 1968 or 1969. Chromometrophonia, Cometa in 1973. This is an album of microtonal music. It's associated with the compositions of a Mexican composer named Julian Carrillo. And what was interesting about Julian Carrillo is he had a style of composing he called Sonido 13, or Sound 13, which basically instead of dividing things into an octave, he believed in dividing the scale into 13 parts, which creates some very weird tones and very unusual tones that are unlike what you hear with a normal scale. And let's see. Oh, Tommy Crook and Paul McGee. This is not many people are looking for this one, but it's very hard to find. I bought it because there's a Beatles medley on here, and it's just basically one guy with a guitar, Mr. Guitar and Mr. Drums. So it's one guy with a guitar, one guy with drums. So it's kind of stripped down lounge music, so I'm into and it's a unique sound. So I'm looking for unique sounds, and this is one of the earliest, the Crossbeats generation, or Crazy Mixed Up Generation is the title, and it is one of the first Christian rock records. It, I believe, dates from 1965, and it was a Christian rock record in the Mercy Beat style, the kind of beat style that the Beatles did from Liverpool. So this is a Christian rock record in that style, and it is because it was in 1965, and they picked the Mercy Beat style, which was still a very popular style in 1965. So you'll never really hear a Christian record like this because all the other Christian rock records came after this Mercy Beat style went out of style. But these guys were playing Mercy Beat when it was still contemporary, and so it's a Mercy Beat Christian record. here's some renovation sounds. So, okay. Oh, this one. Sing a Song of Sickness. It's kind of split up on the top, but it is the Crown City 4. This is, I have another record that these guys did under another name, but this is part of, there was a trend in the late 50s, early 1960s called sick humor. And yeah, it's actually pretty edgy. I mean, maybe not exactly edgelord stuff. They may not be edgelords by 2021 standards, but they were really pushing the envelope. And they had Watch World War III on pay TV, the annual get-together of the KKK and the NAACP, 50 million commies, can't be wrong. So these guys were really pushing the envelope politically. They were kind of I guess, sort of it was almost like a folky Kingston Trio sound, but they would go much farther politically and like try to offend everybody left and right. So it's actually kind of funny because of how far they push the envelope, and it's not as dated as you would think, given that it's kind of a folky record about politics from the 50s. But no, it actually holds up a little bit more because of how much they were willing to push the envelope. And okay, the Crusaders, Make a Joyful Noise with Drums and Guitars. So this was another very early Christian rock group. They have an amazing cover version of The Little Drummer Boy that I like to bring out at Christmas time because, a lot of Christmas music is boring, and I like to get better Christmas music. I like to collect, so I sometimes like to collect Christmas songs because I want a better quality of Christmas music for my Christmas time. They were an early Christian rock group. They eventually evolved into a sunshine pop group called The Love Exchange, which is another album I have. Both The Love Exchange and the Crusaders were on Tower Records, which is a good record label. And let's see, what do we have here? Okay, this is. There's nobody identified on the front cover, but this is, actually it is. Culture Side. It's in the lower right, the title's very much in the lower right-hand corner. Culture Side, Tacky Souvenirs of Pre-Revolutionary America. So basically, it's sort of I don't know if you could call it a punk record or a novelty record. It's basically a guy in the early 1980s showing his contempt for all the top 40 songs of the era by singing them in a voice like this, and he has these like really annoying keyboard sounds behind it, and he's just like basically doing all these cover versions of songs he hates, and so basically, I mean. That's what you get. I mean, that's the concept or the concept or the angle that he's coming from. And Tim Curry, Dr. Frankenfurter from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. So he did an album. He actually sings decently. Because I think he did musicals and stuff, so he can actually sing. I have this because Tim Curry did a reggae cover of the Beatles' "I Will," the song "I Will" off the White Album. And here's a collection of Beatles covers. It's Beatle hits. From flamenco guitar style by Sonny Curtis. Sonny Curtis, I believe, was a member of Buddy Holly and the Crickets, but this is an instrumental album he did of the Beatles, of Beatles songs done in the style of flamenco guitar. I have no idea why he was doing that, but oh wow! Another bit of trivia about Sonny Curtis is I believe he wrote the theme song to the Mary Tyler Moore Show. So he wrote "Love Is All Around," that TV theme song, which Husker Du did a really good cover of "Love Is All Around." I think Joan Jett did a cover of it too. Oh yes, my collection of biker movie soundtracks: "The Cycle Savages" by American International Pictures. So I like biker movie soundtracks because they have a lot of fuzz tone guitar on it, and you know, so there's a lot of, and, you know, that's a sound I like. And Sinora, this is I got this because I cultivated a really good relationship with a guy who sold records out of the Silver Spring Flea Market near Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and he found this for me, and it's a really good jazzy psychedelic record. There's a song on it called "Stone Is," which is a highlight of the record. And "People the Sky" by Michael Zakowski. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. It begins with CZ, so I'm very close to the end of the C's. And so this is it's a record of electronic music that was played on a Buchla modular electronic synthesizer. That was one of the cool old school electronic synthesizers. You kind of needed an electronical engineering degree to operate it, and it had all these patch cords, but because the price of entry was so high, a lot of these guys are very good. So if you could play a Buchla synthesizer, you on a record in the late 60s or early 70s, you were probably very good. Somebody come to my door. So I'm gonna just pick up where I left off, and here is a record album by Dag. Dag, it's a funk group. I think a bunch of white boys decided to be a funk group in the 1990s. Definitely much better than the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I think I saw them live once. I can't remember, but definitely it was unusual. There was a lot of freedom in the 1990s for different kinds of groups, but there wasn't really any white boy funk act except these guys, and they were actually good. Too bad they didn't sell many records. And here. So I like a lot of all-female bands. This is one of the hardest to find. It is "Straight or Lame" by the Daisy Chain. It is on a record label called United International. It must be a rare record label because I've never seen anything else on that record label. But if you like psychedelic chicks with guitars, definitely the Daisy Chain would be up your alley. And this is a great folk psych record. "It's So Hard to Tell Who's Going to Love You the Best" by Karen Dalton. This was a hard to find record. I'm lucky I found this record. I found it on eBay, so I had to bid for it. But it was a hard to find record even 20 years ago, and it's way, way, way more hard to find now, and I feel very lucky to have it. This is I think my copy of Batman and Robin by Dean I've heard lots of different rumors about this record. Supposedly Sun Ra is on the record. Supposedly the Blues Project is playing on the record. It's kind of surfy garage, music like the Batman theme. It's trying to cash in on the popularity of the Batman TV show at the time. And I've had a couple copies of this one. Dance and Sing with Mother Goose with a Beatle beat. So I mainly like. So this one has like members of the Beatles looking like Humpty Dumpty or Hickory Dickory Dock. There's no Beatles songs on it. They didn't actually want to pay any royalties. It's mainly nursery rhyme songs, nursery rhyme tunes that are done in an instrumental mercy beat style, which was the style of the early Beatles. And Dance Through Outer Space. So this one, I found it on eBay. I've been looking for it for a while. It's basically a dance instruction record, but it's going for an outer spacey sound. So Darcy's Rising Sun Steel Band. I have to collect a lot of steel band records. And, this one has a cover version of George Harrison's Something. I have to have all the steel band Beatles covers, just because, I have to. And, let's see, Bobby Darin, born Walden Robert Casoto. So, Walden Robert Casoto was the real name of Bobby Darin, and this is his psychedelic folk album. So, I haven't seen the Kevin Spacey Bobby Darin biopic movie Beyond the Sea, but I think there's a part of that movie where Bobby Darin has this unsuccessful stint as a folk singer. I think this is from that period. And Hollywood Drag by the Darts, Hippie's Delight. So it's one of the first songs I could find that had the word hippie in it, although hippie meant something different in 1962 or 1963. I think a hippie was somebody who knew all the hippest dances, and so, it was like a word like hipster. Datillo, this is a record from a local band from Minnesota. And some psych records, Daughters of Albion, and The David, and Frank David Selection, Blues and Electronics. So this is another Moog synthesizer record, but it's done with, I guess it's trying to sound bluesy and do a lot of cover versions of blues songs. And okay, this is, I think this is a guy named Eduardo Davidson. He's a guy from Mexico, and I think he was a gay comedian, and I guess this is his hippie record, because I tend to like old showbiz people who put out a hippie record in the late 1960s, so this is one of those. Strange Interlude, so lounge and exotica aficionados will be familiar, and space age bachelor pad music aficionados will be familiar with the Command Records label. It was associated with a guy named Enoch Light. So Enoch Light's record labels such as Command and Project 3 are very popular with lounge music, lounge, space age, bachelor pad one, Strange Interlude by Lou Davies and his orchestra, has some nice theremin on it, so it's good for that reason. Yeah. Betty Davis. So Betty Davis was the wife of the jazz pioneer Miles Davis, but she was an amazing musician in her own right, and she fortunately had a nervous breakdown later in life, but she had about 3 albums. This is the only one I have. It's a little worn out, but I feel lucky to have it. And let's see, Jan Davis, Flamenco USA. So Jan Davis and the Flamenco Boogie Band, and I'm trying to see what there's some really So he does the theme from Policewoman in flamenco style, and he has some of his own compositions. Like there's an instrumental on here he calls Funky Fandango. So it's very interesting. It's a privately pressed instrumental album. I got it for $3. And this was a really cool garage sale find. So this is Miles Davis, the great Miles Davis, and this is Agartha from his Electric period. Probably the most hardest. I mean, this is hard. This is hard rocking, in your face jazz. I mean, this is harder than a lot of metal guys. This is like blast your face jazz. And let's see. Let's see. This was a record, so I've maybe done serious record collecting for about 25 years, but this was a record I got from before that. The DBs. The DBs are very, just very tight power pop group. This is one of their later records. They were associated with REM. They were tight with REM. It's a very good power poppy record. DBs, The Sound of Music, and here the D Drifters 5. So this is absolutely amazing. So there in Canada, there is a community of people of Ukrainian descent, and there was a record label called V, which had some records that were aimed at this Ukrainian community, and this one is actually a sort of a beat, Mercy Beat record, or a beat record. It's the D Drifters 5 sing and play Beatles songs and other top English hits in Ukrainian. So it's a bunch of Beatles songs, so I have to get it for that reason, but it was made in Canada, and the Beatles songs are sung in Ukrainian. So, mind-blowing on a conceptual level. And Dead Moon, I saw these guys in concert once. Dead Moon, it has a guy named Fred Cole in the band. He was in a 1960s garage rock group called the Lollipop Shop, but he kept active even into the punk and grunge era, and so this is one of his more punk grunge groups, Dead Moon, and I saw these guys in concert, and they're cool. So I got a record from them one day. And Blossom Dearie. So Blossom Dearie, she is an amazing female jazz vocalist, active from the 50s through the 1970s, I believe. And this is, I think, when was it? It's 1973. So this is one of her 70s work. She has a very breathy, childlike voice. her stuff is really mellow and chill and really great stuff to listen to. The thing she's probably most known for is, if you're familiar with Schoolhouse Rock, there was multiplication rock where they did numbers instead of stuff from grammar. So so there's a song on multiplication rock called Figure 8, where there's this, a woman with this like breathy childlike voice singing about the number 8. That voice is Blossom Dearie. And if you can find some Blossom Dearie records, definitely, if you can find them for not too much money, you definitely should check them out. So that's the box. Thank you for watching.